Thanks so much for joining us. I'm here today with Lisson, the first female president of FedEx Canada and author of the best-selling book, Resilience. Thanks so much for being here with me today,
Thanks
Lisa.
for having me.
So in your book, you talk a lot about how you became the next CEO, and you have a couple of tips that I wanted to share out with everybody today. The first one that you mentioned was you talk a lot about goal setting.
Yes.
Can you expand on that for us a little bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So it's a proven fact that the most successful people in life, no matter what they do, they write down their goals, both personally and professionally, both short-term and long-term. Okay, so that's the first thing, write them down.
Okay.
The second thing is you can't just write them down and then just wish them to be true. You have to write them down, you have to look at them on a regular basis, and you need to pause and reflect and say, okay, what is the one thing I could do tomorrow, or the one thing that I could do next week to advance towards my goal? What is that one baby step? Because sometimes these goals can be really daunting. Like I actually wrote down I want to be the first female and the first Canadian president of FedEx Canada, which is a huge goal. But I had to break it down into baby steps along the way to get there. And I'll give you an example. When I was an individual contributor, I started out entry level at marketing, and I thought, I want to be a manager. So I wrote down, what could I do to get to be a manager? And I realized one of the first things I could do is go out and ask for a mentor and ask managers to share me their playbook. How did you get to where you are? And start applying that. And then I did that every step of my career. So that's very important, to write down their goals, figure out what baby step you can take to work towards it, and that one baby step will lead you to the next, and it all falls into place. And I think the last thing I will say, which is very important also, is to visualize success. Okay. So, you know, what I wanted to be, when I was a manager, let's say, and I wanted to be a managing director, I started to visualize myself being a managing director, starting to act and think like a managing director, but in a humble way. And they say when you visualize, actually, it actually gets your brain moving towards that goal. It's almost like having a personal trainer inside your head. So visualization is very important in achieving your goals.
Yeah, and you also talk about time to carve out time for your professional development and your personal development, and that's something you've always done?
It is. It's called white space on the calendar, and it's so important that we carve out a couple hours a week at work, and certainly hours a week in our personal life to pause and reflect and have some downtime. So I'm at work, I carve out 3 to 5 hours a week where I'm not on the phone, I'm not in a meeting, and I'm looking at the business goals, I'm looking at my meetings, I'm looking at what's coming next week to make sure I'm prepared. It's like getting off that Ferris wheel of life and just taking a deep breath and just regrouping. It's so healthy that we do that. And also in our personal life as well. Like, you know, I go from being the president of FedEx Canada to being a mom of 4, and then I have to carve out time for Lisa, for me time. Whether it's meeting a friend for hot yoga, meeting a friend for coffee, where we just pause and reflect. And I also will use some of that downtime to look at my personal goals as well. And those people that carve out that little bit of time just for them are more successful than those that don't.
And I love that you're sharing this as a leader, to say that you do this, and there's no excuses for the rest of us that say that we don't have time if a president is doing this, so appreciate that point. You also alluded to mentorship. So what is mentorship, sponsorship, and how has that contributed to your success?
Oh, it's contributed immensely to my success. So as I mentioned earlier on, I would seek out and go ask for mentors, and a lot of them can be very daunting, but I tell people this, just go up to someone that you'd like to mentor you and say, could I please have like 30 minutes of your time once a month for just 12 months? I will send you the questions in advance, and I was wondering if you could just share with me just kind of your thoughts on how you became the role that you're in. And if sometimes people might be too busy, they might say, you know, I can't commit to 30 minutes, you know, once a month the next 12 months. Then say, okay, could I just have 45 minutes just to take you for a coffee to ask you kind of some of your tips on leadership, how you got to where you are. And so just go and asking people for their playbook is hugely important, because then you can take things that they did and start applying it towards yourself. And I would also say sponsorship, so that's mentorship. And what sponsorship is that with sponsorship, you want to establish a really good network within your company where you've got someone in a senior leadership position that basically sponsoring you, meaning that if there's a big special project, you want your sponsor to put your name in the ring to say, I would like, you know, her to take a shot at this. So sponsoring is more about networking and ongoing networking with senior leadership team and letting your intentions be known. So finding those senior people and saying, I would like to be a part of a big project. I'd like you to put my name in if you would consider it. I'm very eager to move up. So let your intentions be known to establish a sponsor that will then have your back and put your name forward. Those two things were hugely impactful in my career.
That's amazing. You also mentioned that you had both male and female sponsors and mentors throughout, so it's important to kind of go to both genders to get some to help.
Absolutely, to get their playbook, their career playbooks, and you take what will work for you.
And have different perspectives. So another thing you also mentioned, I mean, so you started at FedEx at entry level, you moved up to president. How long did that take you in total?
18 years.
Yeah, 18 years, which is incredible.
Oh, thanks.
And one of the other pieces you contributed that to was Lateral Moves.
Yes.
Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very important to always try and, I'd say, get out of your comfort zone. And I always say this too, not a lot of great things happen in your comfort zone, but it's scary to step out. So quite a few times in my career, I took a lateral move that really scared me to death. And I'll give you an example. I was a managing director of marketing. And then I was offered the positioning, not only a vice president of marketing, because my whole career is marketing, but then they're saying, also, we're going to give you sales. I had been marketing my whole career. I knew nothing about sales. I actually said to our president, you're giving me sales too? Like, I'm a marketing person. And he said, you know what? Just go out and just get prepared and you're going to do a great job. I left that absolutely scared to death. I went and bought Sales 101, sales leadership, sales management, because knowledge is power. And whenever you're afraid of something in your life, personally and professionally, go and read. You will find it calms you down, and knowledge is power. So I took that job scared to death, researched, prepared, and was able to hit the ground. I read a lot of books on leadership, and it's very important. So, but my gut was saying, please don't do that. And then right after I did that job for about 4 years, then the sales and the marketing job were getting really big. So they decided we're going to split out sales and put marketing with customs clearance and IT and automation. Now I had got the sales thing under control. I was rocking it now. So it'd been easy for me to say, I'll stick to sales. Or go over here now, learn customer service, clearance automation. I'm like, okay, I'm going to now do this job. So that's another example where those lateral moves, if I didn't take those or say yes, I honestly don't think I would be in this position today.
So get out of your comfort zone is a key factor in continuing to move up.
Indeed. It takes a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And you just mentioned, again, authentic leadership. So can you expand a little bit more on authentic leadership, and how do you find your own?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, earlier on in my career, because again, I've been with FedEx now 26 years. Earlier on in my career, a lot of us felt that we had to kind of act like a man to get ahead. And in doing that, though, it takes us away from our authentic leadership style. So what I tell women and men is this: we all have our own leadership strengths, okay? My strengths might be different than your strengths, but we all have our own. So the first thing is find out what your own strengths are. Ask for feedback from others on your leadership strengths. Know what they are, hone in on them, but don't suppress them. Because if you try and suppress your authentic leadership and try and emulate somebody else, it's not going to come across genuine. So I say to people, find out what your authentic leadership styles are. If you don't know, ask your peers what your strengths are. If you don't know, hone in on those, don't suppress them. And then look to other leaders that you admire to say, wow, I really like the way he or she, communicates in meetings this way. I'm gonna try to adopt that. But it's not taking away from your authentic core 3 or 4 leadership characteristics, but then you can supplement with things that you feel, oh, this might work to help on an area that I know I need to develop. So I always tell people that, and that's what I've had to do as well, because none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
I've always had to work on patience. That's one of my things, one of my weaknesses. It probably always will
Mine
be.
too.
But I will look to leaders that I think, wow, you've handled this very well, whereas I'm not sure my patience, and I would go up to them and say, how did you handle that? What are your tips on managing patience? And I would bring those in because I needed to deal with an area of development for me.
That's amazing. Thanks so much. And again, so in your book, appropriately titled Resilience, we didn't get into a lot of the story that's in here, which I highly recommend you read this book. It's incredibly moving and powerful. But what are some tips about resilience for leaders? Why is this important, and how can leaders better be resilient?
Absolutely. So one of the great things I learned about resilience, unfortunately I had to learn it the hard way by losing my husband when my kids were very young, 9, 7, 5, and 3. But what I learned about resilience is this. Resilience, the definition is that you get went through a life hardship. It could be a life hardship at work. You didn't get the promotion, you didn't get the job you wanted, or it could be something as traumatic as what I went through. But resilience is getting through a life hardship and coming through it stronger than ever. And I always thought those people that did that had this, they were born with it. Well, I was pleased to learn when I went through my hardship that resilience is not something you're born with. Resilience is something that we can all learn. And how we go about learning it, it's all about our thoughts and our mind. So how you learn resilience, like let's say in the workplace, right? Let's say you didn't get that promotion you've been working on for 3 years and you're devastated. The first thing you have to say is to yourself in your mind is, can I control this right now? And the answer is no, you can't control that you didn't get it. So we have to learn to let go of the things we can't control in business. Then the second thing is, okay, now what are my thoughts saying? Are your thoughts, you pay attention to that inner voice, because that inner voice, the most important conversation we have is with ourselves. So if you say after you didn't get that promotion, I'm never gonna get another promotion, this is never going to work, then you're setting yourself up for failure, and the workplace is looking to see how you're going to react. But if you say to yourself, okay, this door did not open, another one will, this was not meant to be, and I'm going to focus on getting myself ready for that next promotion. Maybe there's another opportunity over here. So you have to be very mindful of what you're thinking and what you're telling yourself, and always focusing on moving forward. And these are some of the things that people can do to come through stronger. It's paying attention to your mind, also to your attitude. I always say this every morning. We get up and choose our attitude like we can choose our clothing every single day. So those people that I've seen don't get those jobs. I've seen some come in the next day miserable. It's ruined their day, their week, their month, and all of a sudden now they're looked at differently. I've seen other people in the work environment who didn't get that job, who've handled it so well, and I'm a perfect example. The first time I applied for this job, I didn't get it.
Wow.
I'm a perfect example. But how I was able, and I was obviously quite upset, but I'm like, I'm going to get through this stronger than ever. And now I look back, I'm grateful that I didn't get it because I don't think I was ready.
Timing was off.
Timing was off. But how I just said, no, I didn't get it this time. I'm going to get it the next time. This door shut, but it's going to open again. And I surrounded myself with this positive energy moving forward. And if I didn't do that and grow stronger from not getting it, which is what resilience is, I wouldn't be sitting here today.